Starfield, it's finally here and released to us in all of its glory. Gamers all over can rejoice, but is Starfield everything we had hoped for? Starfield is Bethesda's latest release. The company better known for the Fallout and Elder Scrolls games has launched a long-awaited new IP, with an even bigger and better scale than ever before from a Bethesda title. Now, personally, Bethesda games are hit and miss for me. Typically speaking, I can really get into the groove in all of the Elder Scrolls games and really explore everything that the game has to offer. But for the Fallout series, I can't say I have ever really connected with them. I tried with 3 and 4 and I tried hard, tipping a good amount of time into each game, but I just couldn't enjoy it as much as I do the Elder Scrolls. The loading screen in itself is simplistically beautiful, and by keeping itself simple, you are not distracted by anything other than some mesmerizing music, which really sets the mood and tone for what you're about to immerse yourself into. As you make your way through the menu and actually get into the opening of the game, you'll notice just how jaw-droppingly gorgeous the environments are, and how much attention to detail has really gone into everything your eyes can see. From something as simple as the opening of the game, just looking at the light and shadows against the rock surfaces, and how the torch is creating shadows over the NPCs as you cast your light upon them. I just found myself really appreciating the visuals. Now, when you launch the game, you won't create your own character right away, but you'll eventually get there, and I can't help but feel that even while the game is set in the future, to me it has a real retro vibe, especially coming through the soundboard for different actions when you play. And I'm talking like 80s sci-fi, and personally I am all for it. Character customization offers a wide variety of options to choose from giving you a base template to work with and then altering your physique to your liking before setting off into the game to continue your adventures. Before you complete your character creation, you get to determine your background, which in turn will give you a set of stats to start the game with. Each of them has their own benefits, so take your time and really go through these to see which one of these works best for you. For me, I couldn't play a space exploration game and not be a bounty hunter.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
To complete your character, you have traits. You are essentially allowed to allocate 3 starting traits to better define what affects your character in the larger universe. This screen offers both physical and conditional values to your character, allowing you to align them to a certain faction prior to even knowing who or what these factions are. So, as a first-time player, I decided not to align with anyone in particular, because to me this gave me the option to explore and develop myself in the universe which has been laid out as I see fit. Once you've completed this, give your character a name and you're all set to enter the Starfield universe and go exploring. Now, what you will notice as you interact with NPC characters throughout the game is that while they look and sound so much more immersive and lifelike in comparison to previous games, the NPCs still have that same Bethesda feel to their interactions, keeping to its core ethos as a Bethesda title. And you can see by the decisions you make in a conversation as you're talking to other characters in the game, how they react to certain responses and prompts. From a combat perspective, the game can be played as either a first-person or a third-person shooter. Much like the Starfield predecessor games from Bethesda, this is still a standard in Starfield, which brings a subtle familiarity into the game, which gives you the flexibility to play it as you like. Just make sure when you pick up a weapon, you also pick up some ammo, otherwise you'll end up in a situation kinda like this. There are many different types of guns in the game, and better still, you can modify these with the right parts, of course, to suit your playstyle. And if you don't have the parts, remember to loot everyone and everything as you either kill or come across them. You never know what you're going to find, and you could even find a better version of the weapon that suits you as well. And, well, you know what they say.
You keep what you kill.
Getting into the spaceship side of things, you can actually free explore the spaceship, which will have amenities on board like a toilet, kitchenette or galley, a bed, a research table, storage for days, and of course a cockpit in order for you to pilot your ship. Now, there is one thing I honestly love about piloting the ship, and that's the ability for me to distribute the ship's power to the system I deem needing the most power at that point in time. The power management system for the ship is broken up as follows: engine, shields, grav drive, which is basically your hyperdrive, lasers, ballistic ammunition, and missiles. So I might be cruising around and get jumped by enemy spacecraft. I can redistribute my power from the grav drive into my weapons and shields and make a stand against my assailants. Or, if it's a battle I know I'm not going to win, I can dump all my power into the grav drive and get out of dodge real quickly.
Prepare to make the jump to light speed.
Maneuvering the ship is not dissimilar to that of Star Wars Battlefront or Star Wars Squadrons, where you have to throttle the ship's engines up and down depending on how sharply you want the ship to turn. Space combat I think is worth talking about, as like you have shields, enemy ships also have shields, so the way to approach the combat is to use the lasers to rip down the shield, and once this is successful, you can open fire with ballistic ammo and missiles once you have missile lock. Always wait for missile lock, to really cause a decent amount of damage. Additionally, if you're feeling a little more tactful, you can actively look to disengage your combatants' engines, leaving their ship nothing more than a floating brick, giving you the opportunity to dock with their ship and board it. Otherwise, you can just obliterate it in space and just loot the materials that's dropped from the spaceship debris. When you land at a port, you'll be able to obtain the services of a ship technician, who can either sell you a new larger ship, or you can upgrade the one you have with new weapons and parts to give yourself a ship which is uniquely your own. The limit to this is the money you have available to you and your imagination. Now, in saying all of this great stuff about Starfield, I do have some slight issues with the game, and for me, in no way, shape or form are these deal breakers, but I think they are worth mentioning. The environments are segmented like biomes in the game, meaning I can't seamlessly transition from walking around on a planet's surface and walking into my ship without the game having to load me in. And this is also the same with takeoff and landing. I don't have the control to be able to manually take my ship from the surface of the planet into the vast reaches of space. I have to trigger an event to do this. The same principle applies to hopping through star systems and galaxies. I can't pilot the ship manually and lock onto a location and set it to go like you can in Star Citizen, and then bring myself to land on a planet at any location I so choose. It's all predetermined, which honestly isn't so bad. I was just personally hoping for a little more freedom in the game to be able to take off and land and explore the way I would like to. Like being able to get close to a space station or settlement and having to manually trigger the radio communications to let me in would be an awesome little addition to the game, and perhaps depending on who you have with you, some characters might make getting into certain places a little bit easier.
How are you?
We're sending a squad up.
Negative.
When you're on the planet's surface, you are assaulted with different palettes of colour depending on the planet you land on, which give you a good feel for the type of planet you've landed on and what the atmospheric conditions are like. And the colour schemes being used, you can almost feel the temperature and climate of the planet. It's unreal! The design and development team have done an excellent job in this aspect. When you're walking around planetside, you have a scanner which allows you to scan flora and fauna alike, as well as identify minerals on a planet for harvesting. You can then establish outposts in order to continue to harvest materials from the planet in which you have established an outpost upon. Now this really reminds me of No Man's Sky, which was released in 2016. Seeing individual flora and fauna on a planet and being able to tag and document different species and resources. And with those materials, you can craft more equipment for your outpost and build your own little base of operations if you wanted to. So, does Starfield live up to the expectations? Well, in my opinion, absolutely. It's not perfect. Absolutely not. But then again, what game is? Because what's perfect to me won't be perfect for you, and that's okay. It's one hell of an experience that certainly shouldn't be missed in my opinion, and I can see many hours being spent on exploring the universe that Bethesda has worked painfully hard to make for me to play in, and it would be a disservice if I didn't. It's like Bethesda took their time and looked at different mechanics from different games and cherry-picked what really was going to work for them and for their brand of games and really twisted it and made it their own. Starfield does an excellent job of holding your hand while you get used to the game's mechanics and how the universe works without making it seem like it's guiding you too much in any sort of direction at all. So if you're waiting on whether or not Starfield is your kind of game or not, you won't know by sitting there and watching this video. Get a ship and make for the void of space. That's the only way you're going to know for sure.